We're here with Walter Parks. Fantastic to have you here, Walter. Thanks for coming in.
It's great. It's good to be here. I like to think that I'm a crafts person and I'm serious about what I do. Have fun, but that's what I like about what you guys do, is that you take what you do really seriously and you enable people to enjoy it. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. What I've admired about getting to know you is the life's journey in music and how passionately you've taken it from the very start. I mean, if you go to your website, walterparks.com, and, you know, I just read the bio, it starts right out of the gate. And it was really nice to see, like, you know, a beautiful little quotes in there of Judy Collins, you know, so that kind of catches you right away, like, well, we're dealing with somebody pretty serious here.
Yeah, she's inspiring. Judy Collins is inspiring to me because, A, she's still at it, and her voice is still just angelic, and that so much of that is because she's learned how to preserve what she's done, and to take care of herself over the years. And she's just a great musician, very much of an inspiration. I toured Canada with her a while back, and wow, having also toured for years with Richie Havens, and then after Richie retired, touring with Judy, I just felt, you know, this is quite a gift. So
yeah. Anyway, your musical journey is also just rather incredible. You know, you mentioned in the beginning just starting as a classical, you know, training in school.
Yeah.
During the Woodstock era.
Yeah, I played viola. I was asked what instrument would you like to play in the orchestra, and I think they might have handed me a violin, or in Jacksonville, Florida, we called them fiddles, and but I just didn't like the sound of the violin. The viola was a little bit deeper and richer, and it was a little bit more substantial to hold. But, you know, little did I know that the viola would be you take a little grief for playing the viola. It's not cool. And what I've came to find out, that string instruments in general during the late 60s, early 70s were really not cool. So I had to switch over to guitar, electric guitar, to save myself from getting beat up, you know. And you know, I watched the guys from Woodstock. I watched Hendrix. I watched Richie Havens, and with this admiration that these people were bringing me the whole world. I was just a kid growing up in Jacksonville, Florida. Little did I know that I would later come to know and tour with Richie Havens. So I'm saying this because you just can't predict somehow how your life is going to turn out. But what you can do is follow your passion. And more than likely, if you follow that passion, it's going to lead to something that is truly worthwhile, and might just surprise you in its sort of coincidence in that sense. I admired Richie Havens from afar. I saw him. He seemed like all the world's music in one man. He was so regal and dignified and so full musically. And I thought, I want to be that guy. I want to be able to play and play fully like that and entertain lots of people. And lo and behold, fast forward on the timeline, I've learned how to do that myself. So
pretty amazing. But you've always had that sort of sense in you, I think, to want to learn more, like that you know, learning from music and learning how to find your place in it.
Well, you know, I think that music for me has been my way of just figuring out not just what I'm meant to do, but music has been like my place of honesty. You know, I'm always kind of steering myself to, you know, keep it real, man. Keep it, no, you're getting off course. You know, it's like, it's my compass, and my audience that I play for is really my North Star. And what's really interesting is that songs like the holler that I sing, those things are universally accepted and taken in. Doesn't matter if I'm playing in Europe, if I'm playing in Canada, or if I'm playing in Australia. People seem to like those everywhere. And then certain songs don't seem to resonate universally. So that sort of path towards that universal honesty is what music has done for me. Now, I don't always get it. I don't always achieve it, but I'm on that path.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was said, quoted Daniel Lanois in your bio during this time when you were transitioning into where you wanted to go,
Yeah.
wherever that may be. And he had a really great quote that you put in there. It said, "Don't try, just be."
Yeah, right.
And I think that had an effect on you, as you mentioned.
It did, because it's like it's and I think another way of saying what Daniel said, or what I've discovered. You know, sometimes people give you wise advice and it takes you years to go, I finally figured out what he was talking about. And I think, for me at least, it's not so much don't look for, just accept. Accept who you are. Accept what's already in you, what's already your makeup, and work with that. And then steer yourself towards those things that feel most natural to you. But that all sounds like wonderful hippie talk and everything. But you also have to use tools. You know, you have to get serious about the tools that you work with, and the tools that keep you going towards that North Star, whatever that is for you. And you have to learn about your instrument. You have to learn about the tools of the craft. And that all can help you toward your own personal artistic honesty.
I completely believe that. And watching you perform with the holler, singing into the guitar and seeing the thing sing back to you and give you this harmony that was, it was ghostly in a way that, you weren't expecting it.
Well, and again, I play all over the world, and people come up to me and they say, I've never seen anybody use the guitar strings with the voice before like that. Not only am I using the guitar strings as they vibrate are being picked up through the magnet and then amplified and go through various delays, and then they might interact with the room in different ways from night to night. But the reason I even started doing that, singing into the guitar, is because I wasn't satisfied in a live environment. What do I mean by that? Is when you sing those hollers down in the Southeast Georgia pines, the trees, which there are thousands of, have no lower branches, and they vibrate. You can't see them vibrating, but they're in a almost a microbial level. I think they must be vibrating because the sound carries through those trees, and it sounds like the cathedrals in France or something. And so when I was on stage in clubs or auditoriums, I'm like, I haven't quite got that. I haven't quite been loyal to those pine trees in Southeast Georgia. Even if I'm playing in, Germany or something, I'm thinking of those pine trees. I'm thinking of the source of the music. So one night, I just started singing into the guitar, and the strings were vibrating as if I was picking them. So it came from a lack of satisfaction. It came from a yearning, again, to find that artistic truth. It came from just accepting what I had to work with, and working with it, and to manifest that sound that I was looking for.
Amazing. I mean, it's humbling in a way.
At the end of the day, it's quite simple.
Yeah.
But
so leading that into your work with the Library of Congress, could you tell us more about that? How did you become involved, and what drove you down that path?
Well, I was fortunate enough to be asked to archive my research work on the music of Southeast Georgia's Okefinokee swamp. Many people go, the music of the swamp, what is that? The sound of frogs and gators and so on. No, people throughout history have lived in the swamp. The swamp, any swamp, generally has islands in it, and people would live on those islands. And wherever there's lots of people, there's generally music. Now, back up a little bit. I played for 10 years with Richie Havens. When Richie retired and subsequently passed away, because I had dedicated myself completely to him for 10 years, when he finally, hung his hat up on the wall, I said to myself, what am I going to do? Nobody knows who I am. I've just got to make new connections. And I just looked into my roots. Again, I accepted who I was as my upbringing, and I remembered I used to camp out on the Okefinokee swamp, and I would see these old railroad tracks on the islands, long abandoned, old machinery that was rusted, and I thought people must have been out here. What were they doing out here? One thing led to the other. I researched it, and sure enough, during the same time that Alan Lomax had gone to Mississippi, and John Lomax had gone to Mississippi to record the prison workers and the old blues guys, there was a guy named Francis Harper who came down from the northern part of the United States and went all the way down, borrowed equipment from the Library of Congress, went all the way down to southeast Georgia and recorded the people who lived out there. They were playing fiddle music, they were singing hollers, and they played sacred music called shape note singing. So my point of all this is that when Richie Havens retired, because I had all of my eggs in his basket, I had to look into my roots and said, what can I offer the world that maybe it hasn't heard yet? What can I do that I can probably do in a unique way? And just exploring this small trove of music that I found in the Library of Congress, I realized had not really been done before. And I started writing this out and I got chills. It's like, I don't think anybody's ever written out this music that these people made in the swamp. So it was a matter of personal career survival for me to accept my roots and to wonder. It was really wonderment. It's like, is there any recorded music from this? And I found that recorded music in the Library of Congress. I started writing it out and trying to manifest it on the guitar and voice. I am not really into reenacting, I don't want to put on suspenders and go out and play a banjo and all of that stuff the way they really did it. I want to move this music from the mid-1800s to the present day. So I play it with electric guitars and all of that sort of thing.
Well, there's something very spiritual about it.
Well, yeah. You mean the music itself? Or
the music itself and then your interpretation. And I think that it's also, it's where you grew up.
Yeah.
And so you've made this sort of full circle in your life in a way to pull that out. That's really fascinating. And the exploration stuff just never ends. I've noticed that with your current projects that you're working on, the Unlawful Assembly, it's all in there as well.
Well, the Unlawful Assembly, the name of which, by the way, I came to kind of as an epiphany when I was walking across as a tourist over the Selma Bridge in Alabama. And I was thinking, they arrested all those folks for voting, trying to exercise their right to vote. What was the charge? And then it occurred to me, they were charged with Unlawful Assembly. And that had to be the name of the group that I'm doing now with Stephen Williams. He's the producer and the drummer in the group. And I thought, I want to show the world some of this American spiritual music and work songs and hymns and early hollers. And I want to do this in a contemporary way. And you might wonder, why was I concerned about that? Spiritual music, is this guy a religious guy? I was asked by my family to sing at my father's memorial. And when you accept that sort of task, it's a responsibility. It's not just a responsibility to your family or to the congregation that attends to memorialize the relative who's passed. Almost more than anything, it's a responsibility to the people who created that music in the first place. It's a responsibility to the composer And it's a responsibility, if you don't know the composer, to the people who sang it in the fields. So I'm not interested in trying to, um, wear a costume and try to mimic this stuff. I'm trying to interpret it. I'm trying to embody the feel of it. I'm trying to ask myself, what pain do I feel in my life? We all feel pain. That's my legitimacy. Yes, I did not work in the fields in Mississippi or Alabama, but I have experienced pain. We all have. And as part of my own personal mission of answering the question of what business do I have playing this music that came from such toil, I go down still to this day on every tour. I go to the source and I talk to the people or the relatives of the people who made this music in the first place, or who sang this music by virtue of just trying to get through the hardships of the day. I ask them about how to sing certain songs. I ask them about how to play certain songs, or I might watch them play simply. And people are generally so grateful to help an outsider if they know where you're coming from. If they know you're not attempting to, if they know that your journey is respectful, wow, they're so appreciative,
Yeah.
And so that's what's important for me.
I was going to say that listening to that and thinking that, it's an important part of our history when we learn about the past isn't just to read about it and say, well, this is what happened, but what was the feeling and how do these people feel? So it's important for an artist who's doing that legitimately to be able to interpret that.
Yeah, and it's that the irony of so much of that is a lot of the work that a lot of the songs that we enjoy and party to in the modern day. I'm just going to take an example, like "We Will Rock You," for instance. We will rock you. That was born. That groove and that feel was born of prisoners working in the convict leasing system, banging a piece of rail in unison to move and motivate that piece of rail to move just a couple of inches. Well, it's early in the morning, when I ride, Lordy Mama, that kind of thing. We will. You see, it's the same groove. And I'm just saying that what I'm after is the, like you said, the feeling, the source feeling behind this music. Am I expecting that when we're partying in a club that we need to think of the root hardship of all this? No, we don't want to do that. But as a musician and as a creative, as a songwriter, especially when I'm taking these rootsy feels and writing my own music, as I do in the song Shoulder It, I want to be equipped with at least a knowledge of how it might have felt during that situation of when this music started. And the caveat there is it's impossible for me to know how it might have felt. So all I can do is go to Mississippi and Alabama and Florida, my home state, and Louisiana, and talk to people and play it for them. And Paul, what's wild to me is I go down there and I'll go to an old AME church. And there might be 3 people standing around, and maybe the church people and the body language will be like this when I come in and when I introduce myself. Fast forward 2 hours later, people have their hymnals open and they're helping me with the lyrics. It happens every time. And they can tell that the intent is respectful. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. And I don't always make the mark, Sometimes the ladies will go, it doesn't go that way. And I'll say, well, ma'am, how does it go? Can you show it to me on the piano or something? And it's a beautiful bonding moment.
all this is happening because I'm willing to maybe make that bridge. And when you take that risk to make a bridge, sometimes it doesn't go so well, but most of the time it does. Most of the time it does. And it's a beautiful thing. And that is all the background behind this music that I'm making right now. And it's a wonderful journey.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. It's a journey. And it's been an amazing to just find out about you as we met in St. Louis, unbeknownst to either one of us that this opportunity would come.
Well, you know, I was for a couple of months, you know, you and I are geeks, and if we're in this building, we're kind of electronic geeks and equipment gear geeks and so on. And for a couple of years, not a couple of months, I had my eye on these 8010s, the smaller monitors, and I said, I need something for the field. I need something for my field work, because what I'll do is I'll go to an old church down in Alabama or Mississippi, and I'll record myself playing in these situations, or I might record some of the musicians who live around there. And I need to be able to hear it back. And I need to be able to hear something that's accurate, that's realistically represents, you know, the unaffected sound. I need to be able to hear what those source tapes are. I'll deal with it later in post and make it all fancy when I get back to my studio. But and I had my eye on these monitors for a couple of months, and I wasn't able to hear them where I was living or where I was moving around. And I happened to just came upon you, and I see you with a Genelec table at an electronics show in St. Louis, and this is what I was meant to be.
Yeah, exactly.
I listen to these things, you know? so that brought us together.
Yeah, and that's exactly what those are designed to do. You know, put them in a bag and take them with you. And we're really looking forward to seeing what you do with that. And I hope that we get a chance to share that information too as time goes on.
I'll send you the tapes.
Yeah.
And the videotapes, because that's the important part of it. Everybody knows what it looks like in a studio.
Yeah.
You know, on a mixing desk, and everybody's realm is nice and tidy and everything. But I love seeing just how it gets manifested in the field.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to that.
Yeah.
Walter, thank you so much for giving us your time, hanging out with us here at the Genelec Artist Room at the Genelec Experience Center here in the U.S.
Yeah, and I appreciate y'all's work, and I'm very appreciative for the folks over in Finland, and I hope to meet them someday.
I hope you do too, man. That would be a great visit. Hey, thank you.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Everybody got a show.